Guys, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to use GoPro Studios. Now, in the previous video I showed you how to set up your GoPro for a time-lapse and also import your footage. Now, for what we want today, we want to open up GoPro Studios, and we also want to have our footage ready. So for this I will in fact be using Hey guys, and today I'm going to show you how to use GoPro Studios. Now, in the previous video I did in fact show you how to import footage from your GoPro, and the video before that set up your GoPro to do a time-lapse. Now, in these example videos I am going to be using time-lapse as it's sort of an easier format to go with. I personally like time-lapse as well. So what we want our footage here, and we also want to create an original folder where all the original footage goes. So in our case here it is in fact the time-lapse pictures, and we also want a rendered folder. Now this will all become clear soon. We also want some music, so I've chosen Invincible there from No Copyright Sounds. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to open up GoPro Studios. So as we see here, presented with this screen, now we want to import new files. Now what we want time-lapse, and then we want to get all of our footage. Now this can take a rather large amount of time, so if we just select all of them and click open, we can now in fact view the time-lapse. Now this time-lapse was shot in 4K, so rather good quality. Now what we want to do now is we want to have a look at Now what we want to do is we want to change the directory in which it is stored in. So we go to this PC, and we go to the desktop where the time-lapse is, and we'll select rendered. Now just to make this easier, I'm going to name it time-lapse 1, so we can recognize which time-lapse it is. And then we want to click add clip to conversion list. Now before we do this, in fact, you may want to have a look in advanced settings if there's anything that you want to do. So it automatically sets it to source 30 FPS or 29.97, which is technically the more accurate frames per second rate. Now for you guys that don't know, the frame rate is the amount of pictures which show per second to make up the video. So for the people who are more advanced at video, you may not need to know this, but video is in fact just a bunch of pictures put together to make something look as if it's moving. So about 24 FPS, I believe that's what television is broadcast in. Now the GoPro here can do 60 FPS in 1080p or 15 or 30 in 4K. Now many of the different things here, we have image size, so we can change that, so we'll just leave that as source. Frame rate, we'll leave it as source. Speed up, we don't want it to speed it up. Deflicker, this could be used for, say, if you are indoors and you've got a light and it flickers, then that can remove that. File format, we'll leave that as AVI, it just is the format. Quality high, remove fisheye, I'm not too fussed about it. Remember settings, yeah, we can select that. So you can rotate or flip it, or scrub through and select if you want to mark in or mark out. So add this clip to the conversion list. As you can see there, that time-lapse is 34 seconds. So we'll just click convert all. As you can see here in the conversion details, it will show you what the original is in and what it will output the converted file to. So if we see here, the name of the time-lapse is G0013155.jpg. Now that then goes to timelapse1.avi, because the way that video editors work is they convert the file into a format which is easier for the video editor to process and scrub through. So it just makes life a lot easier. Now frame rate is in fact 29.97. We haven't changed anything to do with frame rate or frame size. So I will come back to this once it has finished converting. So then guys, whilst that is still converting, we can in fact go ahead and import some of the other data that we may be using. So this can be music or other pre-converted pieces of footage. So if we want to go here now, we want to go to step 2, which is edit, and we get this screen here, choose an edit template. I usually don't do anything like this. It does come with the GoPro banner thingy, but to be honest, I don't really use it. I think there is a way in which you can find it, so I just don't use these templates. So let's click cancel there. Now, media or title for music or other video or pictures, you want to click on media. To create a title, click on title. So at this current moment in time, we want to click on media, then we want to go to this PC and find your desktop or wherever file is stored, and we'll just import that music. So this music is 4 minutes 40 seconds long, so a bit too long for our time lapse, but we can soon sort that out. So what we want to do here, just drag it down onto one of the 2 music tracks here, and yes, that can be sorted. Now for a title, we click on title, and over here on the right hand side where it says title properties, this is where the text for the title can go. So let's put in 4K time lapse. We can select the size, so that's currently at 72. We can make it larger or smaller. So I think if we keep that about 70, in fact 72, just because. Fill color, that's what color the text is. So perhaps, I don't know, let's make that white. There isn't an orange on here, is there? Not particularly. One bad thing about GoPro Studios is here you can select any random colour outside the box, which is quite annoying, but suppose you just got to live with it. So select that, and then you can select other things such as opacity, so how opaque it is. Parallax 3D, so that's when using 3D effect. I would do a video on that, but I haven't got 2 GoPros and the 3D dual hero backpack. So fade in, let's set that to 2 seconds. Fade out, let's set that to 2 seconds. And yeah, that's basically all we can have at the moment. And split point, I'll get onto that very shortly for when we do some colour correcting and colour grading. So let's just have a look there. How long is that? 96%. So that'll soon appear here. But in the meantime, let's bring across this title into the first title track of our timeline. Now for you guys that aren't really familiar with video editing, this here down here is called the timeline. This can be where things are stored. So as we see there on the left, the video time-lapse has come in. So if we just click on that, we can now drag it down onto our video track. Now some more advanced video editors can have multiple video and audio tracks, but currently we only have 2 audio and 1 video on in GoPro Studios. So now that we've brought it across here, we can now scrub through the time lapse. Now this is where split point can come in. So if we just drag that across to the center and just move that down there. Image controls, white balance. Yeah, let's go white balance. So just copy that number there. So if you look on the right hand side, that is the edited version. So we can alter that, we can see what looks best, and then you can drag it across where the split point is, see what it looks like on the whole frame, and then back to normal, and then back to the current one. So I was quite happy with the color on there, the white balance, color temperature. So we perhaps just, there's okay. Then tint, you can red or green. If we go for a bit of a greenish tint, that's okay. Now image controls, this is where it gets a bit complicated. So exposure, we can change that, so that's how bright, how exposed and underexposed the image is, so that's usually kept at 1. Contrast, contrast, so how the colour comes across. So I think if we just leave all of those at 1. Saturation, how saturated the colours are, how much colour it has. Usually a 1.1 works quite nicely, does bring out the colour a bit more, make it look a bit nicer. As well there as well, the sun, as you see that change is there. So perhaps if we bring that back down to 1, see what that's like. 1.1 is fine for that. So we'll go back to white balance. Now you can just play about with this however you like. Yes, whatever looks best for you. The sharpness, this is basically how sharp the image is. So as you see there, quite blurry, and then it starts to get incredibly sharp. I usually leave that about 0.001, in fact 0.002. And yeah, keyframes, this is where it can start to get complicated. So for people that don't have really expensive video gear, that for example time-lapse, you can get, it's basically an egg timer that you set how long you want it to go for and how many degrees it goes, and you can get a nice panning effect on that. So if we just bring this split point all the way across there, so just go back to this, here we have the old image and here we have the new image. So yeah, right, so if we go here to framing controls, if we set the zoom to about 1.5, no, about 1.25, 1.2 works best. And horizontal, we move that to the right until the frame starts to come in, so about there. And we can set up a keyframe. So if we click the little add here, and we can add a keyframe in. Now if we go to the end of the video clip, we can in fact go to the end and set up our last keyframe. So this is where we can bring another keyframe in and just go put negative in there so it looks equal. Basically throughout the duration of the time lapse, you can basically see the whole image panning across like so. Now for the title, we can do many things here. So the title, if we just bring it to about halfway, this is where the title will be. So you can drag that about, so I don't know, down bottom left hand corner there, that looks good. So yeah, basically we can leave that there. And now the last thing we want to do is import our music. Now you can use this razor here to edit how long you want the video to be, but for this instance I am going to use it for the audio. So if we bring it to the end of the video track, there, you can cut it about there, 3408, yeah, that's directly when it goes. Now let's cut the track there, so we can now select this one, move it on a bit, move it to a different track, whatever we want to do. So for this I'm just going to click delete and get rid of that audio track. Over to the right hand side here, when we are selecting the audio track, we can select the fade in. So if we go for a 2-second fade in and then for a 2-second fade out, then that works fine. Just do a quick example of time lapse here. you see it already starts to pan across there. Last thing that we need to do is export it. As well, guys, forgot to say this at the start of the video, it makes sense to save the video as you're going through. So anyway, step 3, export. I often go for custom because we can set many different things such as bitrate. But for example, YouTube, they've already got a pre-made one which determine the bitrate, frame rate, and all sorts of stuff like that. So anyway, let's go back to custom. I will set 45, that's good. The total file will be about 193 megabytes, so that's okay, that's not too big. You can expect to see one of my farming sim videos at about 1 gigabyte to 2 gigabytes depending on the length and the quality of the video. So frame rate, you can select source, but there's different ones here, so 12, 15, or in fact 60 or 48. So just click source, and then so if we go to 4K for this, so then it's scaled to that 16:9 ratio there, which makes it look better. File format, you can choose H.264, which is MP4 format, or Cineform, AVI, or Cineform MOV. So H.264, and we'll just click export, and then it brings up this. If we just go to desktop, time lapse, then we'll just name it time lapse 1 _1 version 1. We'll click save. That will then start to export it. Depending on the specs of your computer and how big the video is and what quality it is in, the export time can change. But yeah, that is all from me today on this rather lengthy GoPro tutorial. I really hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, hope it's helped you out a bit. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share this video, as it really does help. And yeah, if you've got any friends that are stuck on GoPro stuff, you can link them to this video, and hopefully it can help them out. So sure hope it's helped you out, and yes, I will see you next time. Goodbye.